Hello and welcome to Community Forum. My name is Joseph Feaster. I'm the host of the program. And as you walk around the downtown of Stoughton, you wonder who has responsibility for making up the ideas for what should be done in the center of Stoughton, what types of buildings and businesses and activities should go on. Well, with me today are three gentlemen who are 3 of 5 members of what is called the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority. And we're going to have a conversation about some of the things that you see going on in Stoughton, some of the plans that are on the way, and what role the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority will play in revitalizing our downtown. So let me introduce my guests and welcome them. I want to welcome you gentlemen here today with Community Forum.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
To my immediate right is the chairman of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority, Forrest Lindwall, and he is a member of the board until April of 2023. To his immediate right is Reggie Nunnally, who is the treasurer of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority, and as I understand, is going to be corrected. His will be until April 2021. And next to him is Mark Zamanian, who is a member of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority, and he was elected this year and will serve until April of 2024. So, gentlemen, I'm so happy to have this opportunity to speak with the 3 of you, having served for at one period of time as a counsel to the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority and had the chance to work very closely with this gentleman to my immediate right on some issues. But I always like to educate the viewing audience, not only on the guests, so I'm going you to tell a little bit about yourselves. And then, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be asking you a few questions about the organizational aspects of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority, and then we'll talk about some of the plans, and we'll have a dialogue amongst the 4 of us. Mm-hmm. So, Forrest, if you will start by telling a little bit about yourself, and then Reggie, and then Mark.
Thank you, Joe. Excuse me. My background is in civil engineering, site development, and I probably started working about 54 years ago professionally. I'm semi-retired, I guess is the way to say it, from 2011. I've been a Stoughton resident generally since 2007, 2008. And when I left full-time work in 2011, I had a lot of time on my hands and found myself interested in trying to help wherever I could in terms of some of the development issues in the town of Stoughton. And so I did, there was a vacancy on the Redevelopment Authority, so I applied for that vacancy and I was appointed, and then I ran for a full term. And then I run for a second term, and this will be my last term, I promise.
I know you, yeah, we all say that.
Yeah. No, I promise. But my wife and I, we live on Plain Street, and between us we've got 8 grandchildren, and in the summertime we spend an awful lot of time babysitting. But I've been involved in the Friends of Stoughton Center. I have had some success in doing certain things downtown with the SRA and the Friends of Stoughton Center, and I've been involved in a few other things. I was on Old Colony Planning Council as the town's representative there for several years. I enjoy the opportunity to work in the town. A lot of challenges, a lot of frustration. As you once said to me, you got to be patient, you got to stay with it, and things, we'll have a way to work out. So I enjoy pretty much what I do. I enjoy my grandchildren. I went to the Red Sox last night and I saw Kyle Yastrzemski and his grandson playing baseball for the San Francisco Giants. And I said, the only reason I'm here is because I'm a grandfather, and I know the joy that does come with that. So.
All right. Well, thank you. Reggie.
Well, first of all, Joe, I want to thank you for having me on your show once again. And you get a double thanks because our relationship goes back 25 plus years. I have to give you a great deal of the credit for your encouragement in getting me involved in government back in 1996. And it was a pleasure, working with you over those number of years. Even following you out to Stoughton, But my background, for the past 30 years or so has been in real estate development, both commercial, neighborhood commercial development, as well as housing development. I've retired from government and was looking forward to a very peaceful life, and again, you stepped forward and said that I should be involved in the town of Stoughton. I've lived here now 17 years, and I've taken your advice as well as my wife's advice that that there were some things that I could be helping Stoughton move forward on. The opportunity came up in terms of interviewing for a vacant position, and I did so and was appointed very similarly as Forrest had. Fortunately, my term doesn't expire until 2021, so I really do look forward to seeing that Stoughton, along with the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority, moves forward progressively, particularly as it relates to downtown, but as it relates to the overall Stoughton area. So I look forward to working with the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority. I look forward to engaging with the community at large, and once again, being able to interact with you, Joe.
Well, thank you. And before I go to Mark, I do want to underscore, because thank you for those kudos. I'll make sure Phyllis sees this tape. But I think it's important for you to mention the work you did with the Enhanced Enterprise community, because that's so relevant to the work that you're going to be doing here. Just a little brief bit
Sure.
of that particular piece, and right there, the hotel that's in Boston, and all of that is a result of your efforts.
Joe, back in 1996, you was the chairperson of the Enhanced Enterprise Community Advisory Board, and we were awarded $44 million to do capital projects. And it's very similar to what you would consider like a town meeting when you're talking about doing some redevelopment in the Boston area in a very small area, that really was over 60,000 people that were involved. And we did a number of projects. My favorite project was the development of the Grove Hall Mecca Mall. Which is where I'm from, but being able to put approximately $8 million into that project and make it a destination place where 30,000 people used to drive through there on a daily basis. Now it becomes a destination where people actually stop. Over 400 people have jobs, and now there's been an overall investment in terms of infrastructure, other businesses, over $100 million that came into that area. It was also a pleasure to work with a number of diverse developers. One in terms of Tom Welsh and Kurt Sykes, that developed the Hampton Inn Hotel, which is the first black hotel in Roxbury from the turn of the 20th century, going back to the early 1900s. Very similar to the Hampton Inn that's here in Stoughton. We did a number of projects like that, and we spent the $44 million all on capital projects, and we created well over 1,000 jobs. And it was over $100 million of total investment in the area. And the federal government gave us 10 years to do that, and we actually was well ahead of schedule because 2001 we were out of money and looking for some more things to do, and we'd like to think that we were the catalyst for getting Boston to rebound, particularly in the neighborhoods that we serviced. And those neighborhoods were Roxbury, parts of Dorchester, South Boston, Chinatown, Jamaica Plain, and now a lot of folks will ride along the Seaport area and say what a magnificent job that's being done down there. But we were the first ones to do some development down in that Seaport area with those the fish industry,
right.
That put condos there so that the fish industries could remain in the Boston area.
And I wanted you to mention that simply because as you talk about the work here, similar things might be able to be happening. But Mark, as I told you, and as I said off air, I liked you from the first time that I met you, and I know when you were running for this particular position. So let's tell our audience about Mark Zamanian.
Sure. Thank you, Joseph. And I want to thank you for encouraging Reggie to get involved here in Stoughton. He's an invaluable asset to us. I remember when we received all the resumes, I looked at it and said, oh my God, what are we going to do? This guy's way overqualified. But I was hopeful and went through the process with the Board of Selectmen and was very, very happy with the results. Actually, the results from all three positions that needed to be filled, two at the planning and one at the SRA, to be able to go through that process with the Board of Selectmen was rewarding in many ways. And I'm very happy to have Reggie with us. So thank you, Joseph, for that encouragement to him. I am a local contractor and a consultant. We moved here in 2005. Got involved in politics around 2012, give or take, sort of on the sidelines. I had to leave politics for a short period of time due to an illness, but got back involved last year. And I was humbled and very fortunate to have been elected, and I'm striving now to work very hard to fulfill my obligation to the people here in Stoughton. I have 4 kids. Ages 27 to 8, so I'm a busy man. Keeps you young. I'm approaching 50, and that kind of horrifies me, but life is good here. We moved here because it was a little bit less of a pace. We came from Quincy. I was involved there with Mayor Phelan at the time. So it was kind of a natural thing to get involved in politics here, and I'm happy to be here, and we're enjoying ourselves, and thank you for having us.
Well, thank you, Mark, Reggie, and Forrest. I'm going to just take the liberties to give some of the background because I want to get specifically into what you folks are thinking about doing, some of the projects I'm familiar with that were on the drawing board, and to have that dialogue take place. So I'll just tell the viewing audience, the members of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority are elected for is it a 5-year term?
Yes.
5-year
Yep.
term. One person is appointed by the governor.
Right.
And that person right now is Helen Resendez.
Helder.
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 Helder, okay. Helder Resendez,
Resendez,
yes. And so there's appointment by the governor, 5-year term. 4 are elected right here by the residents of Stoughton. The Stoughton Redevelopment Authority was established in 1963. What gives them the authority is the Mass General Laws, Chapter 121B, which says it allows municipalities through their redevelopment authorities acting as urban renewal agencies to eliminate and redevelop substandard, decadent, or blighted open areas for industrial, commercial, business, residential, recreational, educational, hospital, or other purposes, with the goals of revitalizing such land uses and encouraging new growth. And then it talks about what the powers of the redevelopment authority are. So, with that backdrop, which makes you, as I call it, land czars, because, and I know from my legal training in this area and having worked on 121B issues, the definition that they want for blighted or decadent is well defined, and not much you can deviate from. But Forrest, I'm going to start with you, since you are both the chair and the senior member of this body sitting here today. There were some projects and any one of you can then jump in from there. I just want to put them out there. There's a Stoughton Downtown Redevelopment Plan, which has an urban renewal plan. There's our good old train depot, and I want to clarify there's one person in town that's putting out misinformation regarding the train depot, and we'll clarify that today. There was the discussions around the post office. There's the Chengdu site. Stoughton Theater, I'm not sure if that's under your, but that's at least dealing with the downtown, so I think it's in there. the Randolph Savings Bank building, and then I want to talk about a vision another co-host here on Community Forum, Steve Kelly, had put out some years ago about his ideas for it, and I want to reintroduce that today as well. So I'll start with you, Forrest, and any of you, Reggie, Mark, chime in as we go along, and I'm going to just sit back here and listen.
This is only a 1 hour show, right?
That's right.
and you're asking me to remember 7 things. It's like, no, unlikely. Just a little brief history, because there's some symmetry here that's really kind of interesting, is that when the Redevelopment Authority was first formed back in 1963, the original target was to demolish the train station depot building. And that was the original charge, and redo Wyman Street at the same time. Fortunately, that did not happen, at least as it relates to the depot building. It is now on the National Historic Register. And over the past 20 years, the Redevelopment Authority did do what's known as Technology Drive off of Route 139. And it is probably, as one entity from 139 all the way down to where Amazon has their distribution facility on one street, is probably the largest tax-paying entity in the community. There's over 2 million square feet of development down there. There's a hotel, there's retail, there is some technology in the office building. And we do have a sum of money at this point that basically comes from the effort of those people who came before us in doing that. And that is what's sort of keeping us afloat. Also, somewhere along in the process, the SRA took over what is known as the landfill at 100 Page Street. And as a part of that, it was an agreement worked out with Conroy Development as a redeveloper. He actually did the closure of the landfill. And the Redevelopment Authority owns that land, okay? But we also have, there's a C&D, it's called facility, which is construction and debris recycling. And that's a source of income for us. They actually pay us rent. Going back to when I first came on board.
Well, let me just because otherwise I'll never get these guys
Okay.
a chance to say a word. So,
Yeah.
I related the historical and some of the things that are on the table. We may get into some of them. I will clarify the train depot
Yeah.
issue because
Yeah.
that's personal. But more importantly, I would want to find out, in terms of looking at the things that are on the table for both Reggie and for you, Mark, being new to the board. What are some of the things you envision? What struck you, Reggie, by going for the appointment? What struck you, Mark, in order to apply to run for a position on the SRAs? So both of you.
So you're right. I ran because I really felt that I could do a better job. The incumbent, Michael at the time, had been on for 6 years. We clearly have a stagnancy in the center. It's interesting to note that stagnancy is the same stagnancy that occurred in 1966, I think. I found a letter with some very realistic questions on that letter, and those were essentially, what are we going to do with this town center, and how do we revitalize it? So here we are in 2019, and we're still kind of asking the same questions. So I felt I could bring something to the table. I'm a hands-on, in the trenches sort of guy. I think we have a lot of experience when it comes to oversight, but we have very few people hands-on, Gaia. Although I will admit Forrest is generally out there with me on different projects that we've been handling as of late. So I felt that this town center needed a jump start, and I feel very strongly that will happen through cooperation with developers. The struggle is developers aren't interested in coming here. So if you look at the entire town, is the town of Stoughton toxic, or is there just something in that square? And certainly not the town of Stoughton. There's lots of great development happening in town, which tells me something is fundamentally not working right inside the center. I have opinions on that, and they're my personal opinions, but I like the fact that I'm able to bring them to the table and discuss them with the board, and the board is receptive to talking about that. So I think that's positive. We've worked together as a board so far, and Don't agree on everything, but that's okay. That's what makes for good negotiation. The ability to say, this is how I feel, and then somebody else to say, well, I think this could be done this way. So my opinion with the center is that we have to fix the zoning first, and that's something that we're focused on here at the SRA. So Reggie, you might want to add some things here.
For me, Joe, you know, like I said earlier, I lived here now 17 years. And what I see for Stoughton is growth. And I see opportunity, you know, particularly in the redevelopment of downtown. When you take a look at Stoughton Center and then go straight down Route 138, there's no other center until you get to Mattapan in Boston. Therefore, you know, we need to do some of the same things that we did for the Grove Hall neighborhood and make it a destination point. And there is a number of opportunities, some of which you just mentioned. But I think that, you know, some of the things that I can bring to the table, you know, is you know, in terms of hopefully identifying additional resources, financial resources, hopefully bringing in more diverse developers with some other ideas, and the notion of partnering with the town of Stoughton, as well as the planning board, you know, so that we're all on the same page, all heading in the same direction, you know, really looking at the growth of Stoughton in general, and in particular, the downtown section. It is a great opportunity there, and one of the things that we've got to be able to do is to tell our story. And that story's got to get out to the private sector so that the private sector can come in and partner with the town as well, so that we can begin to really stabilize the tax base, so that we can take care of some of the elderly folks that are here that are under siege in terms of the tax base. So some of the things that I look towards, you know, is really, you know, those opportunities that are there is to help realize those.
And Joseph, if I could jump in for 1 second. Reggie makes a great point, and I couldn't agree with him more. We are actually a dual gateway, if you think about it. We're the first town you really hit on 24, but we're also the first source of possible town center on 138. We have done an incredible job over, and the members before me did an incredible job up at Technology Drive. Now, you know, we shifted our focus, it was 2014, was it not, Forrest?
For the downtown, yes.
That we shifted our focus to the downtown, and I agree, we have an incredible opportunity here to work with both private and public partnerships and bring that together and make it work for this town.
Let me just pick up on that 2014. We retained a consultant to put together an urban renewal plan, and all of us wished it had a different title than urban renewal plan. And we went through 2015, we did a complete inventory analysis of buildings throughout the center of town, et cetera, et cetera. We came up with 4 or 5, I forget, particular scenarios for redevelopment. Unfortunately, when that was presented to the Board of Selectmen, we could not reach consensus amongst the Board of Selectmen at that time as to what might be a doable project going forward. And so this kind of went on the back burner 2016, and then into 2017, I think you know the rancor that ultimately resulted in a recall election. I think the dust has settled a little bit, not enough, that we are in a position and intend to issue a request for proposal to advance what was done before and put that out for consultants to respond to, so that we can see what it would take to advance that into. It has to be a plan that's approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Department of Housing and Community Development in Boston, okay, to be a sanctioned urban renewal project.
Okay, well, I'm going to make some statements on behalf of the things that I hear in town, and that folks can react to them as well. First and foremost was Stoughton doesn't do a good job in terms of marketing itself. So my observation is that Stoughton is the center, and if you look back historically, and I said this at various times in the past, many of the communities surrounding here came out of Stoughton town. Stoughton was the epicenter here, and a lot of things grew around. In fact, even going over, Stoughton was part of Boston.
Correct.
Back in when you start talking,
It was part of Dorchester.
Yeah, Dorchester.
It was.
So what I'm saying is, what you mentioned, Mark, about it being at 24, Reggie, what you mentioned about 138, we are the center. We're close for businesses. We're close in terms of all the things. We don't market ourselves. So that's one of the observations I see. The other one is we plan, and
nothing gets done.
and plan. So that's the other criticism. We don't go anywhere. And this will bring me to my train depot. Forrest, as you know, we had the contract all signed with the MBTA. We had it all ready to go.
Yep.
Ready to go. Had worked out the deal.
2015.
Yeah, he had it ready to go. Boom. Town decides they want to take it on, and here we are, 2019. We still don't own the train depot. Now, there was some discussion about what to do with it and about et cetera, but we would have had the building. We had to pay no interest. We had 10 years in order to pay it, all the good deals. It didn't happen. So for that person who mistakenly says that it was the Redevelopment Authority and its lawyer that prevented the town depot, the train depot from being sold, I wanted to correct for that person. That just isn't true because I'm the lawyer that you were talking about. But in any event, there are other things that are coming into play. What will it take to change those perceptions? What would you recommend? And I heard some of the things come from each of you. But I want you to tell the audience the viewing audience, what you're thinking about. I can get into the specific project, but it's more conceptually what you're going to do as a board to move this forward, because we're going to say, 3 nice guys, but we've been here before. Mm-hmm. So what's going to be different?
I'll tell you what my vision has been since I came onto the Redevelopment Authority is that sort of ground zero for me for redeveloping is not Washington Street and the front door. It's more from the train depot up Wyman Street coming from the back door side. I looked at the depot as ground zero for redevelopment, and then move from that, the railroad tracks, up to Washington Street, and then expand in both directions. If you take a walk on Wyman Street today, it is in deplorable condition. The town does now own this depot, but they didn't plan for it in terms of, I drove through there this morning and there's 30 parking spaces that are still being occupied by the MBTA commuters. And it's like, if I were in a position to make decisions like that, those signs and repainting of those stripes would have been on the day before we closed.
Oh, they did close on it?
Oh, yeah. They've closed. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you know what's funny? What's
It was a little anticlimactic. Yeah.
I shouldn't say funny. The deed that we had negotiated with the T, along with Selectman O'Krisky,
Yes.
is less restrictive than what they've signed now. It is.
Yeah.
And it took 4 years, 3.5 years to accomplish that. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I try not to be negative. But I think there
Facts
are
are
things
facts.
that, yeah, they are. And ultimately, that body politic does rest, with the Board of Selectmen and with the town manager. And that's been a struggle that is way beyond where the Redevelopment Authority is at. That's been a serious struggle. But that's what I'd be looking at as a phase 1 redevelopment, is Wyman Street is kind of the center of
Well, that's
that.
almost a segue to Reggie, who said, we need to bring all the parties together and try to get on the same page. So Reggie, let's...
Well, part of my
Let's lift that
interview
up.
was exactly that, in terms of what is needed, what has to happen in order to see progress, And my experience has told me that you have to have all the players at the table and having some type of consensus. It's like having a 3-legged stool. You have the town, you have the SRA, you have the community. You're absolutely right. Not only Stoughton, but most towns have some difficulty in marketing itself. If you can't tell your story, then nobody's going to know about it. So I look at the fact that, all of this planning that takes place, that if you're doing it independent of each other, you're not going to move anything down the field. It is absolutely essential that the partnership, and it's not just sort of meetings, it really is a full partnership where there are roles and responsibilities in terms of moving things down the road. You know, so the planning board, they've got some certain responsibilities, the zoning, the town, SRA. I think that we all got to be there, put everything on the table, and then sort of hash it out as to what are we going to do first, how is it going to get done, where the resources are going to come from, and we need to pay particular attention to make sure that it's sustainable. You know, we don't need to go back to the town meeting on an annual basis and say we need more money to do something. Mark brought up the fact about the zoning. You know, as soon as we're able to, you know, fix the zoning issues, the developers are going to come here. Because this is an affordable area. We're only 17 miles from Boston. Boston is saturated. The small businesses, as well as some of the large businesses, really have their eye out here, but it is too difficult for them to come here and do business.
And Mark is biting at the bit to speak, so I'm going to.
Well, you know, it's always so. As you well know, and he's right. I always am. I'm a very outspoken person.
No.
Yes, and I'm proud of that. I think that every town needs somebody who will be diplomatic and respectful, but also outspoken. Dissension is the spice of life, in my opinion. But, you know, Reggie spoke about working together as a town, and you remember during my campaign, that's one of the things I ran on. And I can't tell you how happy I was to have a meeting this past Monday with the town planner, the planning board, Pam McCarthy from Economic Development, Christine Howe as the chair of the Downtown Economic Task Force.
Redevelopment Task Force.
I never get the words right.
That's okay.
Mark Tisdale was there from engineering and the SRA. That was the first real meeting of the minds, if you were, and I thought that the meeting went wonderfully.
The Chamber of Commerce representative.
Oh, and I apologize. You're right. The Chamber
developer
of
representatives.
Yep. And there was a developer, but he's on the redevelopment
DRG,
task
yeah.
force. Yeah. It was great to get all those people at table. It was the first time, and I suspect it's the first of many to come. That's the first thing we need to do. Everybody in Stoughton needs to sort of get on the same page. Because when you have various boards doing different things, and Mr. Rosito brought it up, oftentimes they can be repetitive. We don't want repetition. We've been stalled on the town center for a long time. So by bringing everybody to table, we have one common focus. We move forward with that focus in mind, and hopefully we see some progress. And I agree with Reggie, we will. It is my opinion that the zoning is what is holding us back right now. But both the SRA and the town planner are actively working on the zoning. I feel very comfortable that we're going to come to a solution to that, move it forward to town meeting with a collaborative effort. And when that happens, I think the developers are going to come to us. I think we should put a package together. We send it to the local developers and those who we think might want to get involved, and we get them here. And they will come. As Reggie said, we're reasonably priced. We're a happy town that wants new development here. People here are reasonable to deal with generally.
Well, let me raise two issues, because one you mentioned in terms of the State Department of Housing, Community and Development, which we met with back during earlier times with the SRA, because that's a critical component, and they came, they gave us a presentation, and I think that is in relationship to a discussion around the post office site. That was one of the conversations we had with them. So I mean, I think that's another component that you want to add to the conversation early on, since someone needs to be able to deal with them as well. But there have been some development pieces that have either come on or are currently being considered, and one is the Randolph Savings Bank building, and then there's a discussion. Forrest, as you know, we met with the the principals of the post office.
Yes.
And talked about that. So maybe for the viewing audience, just give an update as to where that was or is, because I know the town bought the Randolph Savings Bank, but they wanted participation by the SRA. So where do we stand with that?
Let me just go back to the post office first, and then
Okay.
I'll jump over to that. On the post office, the Board of Selectmen were able to get to the powers to be that would negotiate, if you will, relocating the distribution portion of the post office out of town. It required a $20,000 non-refundable deposit to get them to the table to even negotiate. The Redevelopment Authority did pay that $20,000, and then we paid $4,500 for a land survey, which happened on the coldest day last January, that was surveyed. Since then, there's been quiet negotiations to the point where the post office has said they would like to keep a retail presence in the center of town, which is consistent with what they've always said. But also, they're willing to have the distribution facility, the 21 trucks and the staff associated with that, moved out of town. There's not a lot of progress. It's very, very slow in dealing with the post office, but it is still a major topic. What was talked about at the master plan was sort of turning that whole post office site into the living room of the town, if you will, and to quote, I guess, Selectman O'Regan. We haven't really gotten into starting to plan that out. We haven't had a charrette with landscape architects or whatever. On Randolph Savings Bank, the Randolph Bank came to the town and said, we're going to move up to Route 138. We're willing to sell the building for $650,000. And the Redevelopment Authority was approached by the selectmen, and we have tried to have a relationship or partnership, I should say, with the Board of Selectmen. So we agreed that we would commit, if it passed town meeting, 50% of the cost of the purchase. That did pass town meeting. Bond counsel told the Board of Selectmen it couldn't be a joint venture in terms of ownership as far as bonding it over 20 years. So the town bonded the full $650,000 over, I believe, a 20-year period. So then we pursued working out an agreement with them, okay, particularly and with good advice from you, okay, that if they did decide to sell it, we would share in the proceeds of the profits. That agreement has never been settled. It is still on the table. It's never been rescinded, but we don't know what's happening, and I think the town has struggled a little, the Board of Selectmen has struggled a little bit as to what is going on. So whether we're going to pursue that agreement further or not, I don't think we have answers to that. You need to go to the Board of Selectmen on that. But I think that is still on the table. So far, as my understanding, there's only been one payment by the town on the first installment of that 20-year bond. We're game, we're open to how they want to do it. If they do move the recreation department there, then basically it becomes a town-owned building, okay?
And that would be my struggle, Joe. I wasn't here when that vote was made. However, we have to look at our return on investment. We have very limited funds,
right.
And we want to spend them wisely. So if we're going to pay half into something, I want to know how that money's going to come back to us. As Forrest said, if it becomes a town-owned building, at least temporarily, that's what they're talking about, putting the recreation department in there, then it really isn't we can't get a return on investment, so there wouldn't be a reason for us to invest into that.
But over and above that commitment, we did pay for all of the due diligence for that, for land title,
Yep.
Land survey,
Yep.
title search, appraisal,
We just paid
environmental assessment, 21E, and we just paid that bill, up to $20,000. I think the bill was $19,000
$567,
something like that, okay? Whatever the number was.
Yeah, I pay
I love
attention.
you guys.
The treasurer, my hero over here, the treasurer had to write that check. And I want to thank Reggie, because trust me, I was treasurer for 2 years, and that was one thing I really wanted to get rid of, and Reggie willingly accepted the nomination to be our
Yes,
treasurer.
it was like the Foreign Legion. Everybody else stepped
Absolutely.
back.
I didn't
nobody
set him up.
wanted-
I asked him before I
Nobody
did it.
volunteers.
Not sure they knew exactly what they was doing.
It took a little bit of convincing,
But I mean, but everything was done, through the town. We made that commitment for that $20,000. They wrote all the contracts, and we approved the scope of services for everything, and what came in was certainly all, very much acceptable.
I may go, Reg, I see you have your finger
Yeah.
up, so I'm gonna let you do that, but I want you to think about this, because I may be going beyond the scope of this, but as good and involved citizens as you are, I wanted to get your takes on two things which I think will assist the town in this redevelopment effort, not only just within the center of town, but throughout the town. One is sewer line down Route 27. Two, the Stoughton Theater. And Reggie, I'm gonna let you do your point. I'm gonna go to our sponsors, and then we're gonna come back. I wanna get your either individuals or collective responses on those points.
Exactly, Joe. Thank you. One of the things that I think we have to learn, in terms of a lesson, particularly around the Randolph Bank, is that there needed to be an understanding of what that bank was going to be prior to it being purchased. Because we find ourselves, or the town finds itself now, trying to figure out what it should be. And there's a lot of different opinions on that, and that's great, whether it's the recreational center, or private site, or whatever it might be. I look at it as we need to be able to look at the sustainability of it, because we cannot continue to purchase buildings and then try to plan for that. We need to plan, and in the event that there is no plan, then we need to step back, because the town should not be in a position of having to pay any money for any building without an understanding of what their return on that investment is going to be. Because ultimately, what we did was we took a building off the tax rolls. We are now trying to figure out what's going to go in there, and depending on what it's going to be, the town may have to pick up some of the operating costs, for that. And that's one of the things that I want to continue to ask these questions about, what is the sustainability? What is the feasibility? And what is the profitability? And sometimes you don't need to have all of those things, but you need to clearly have that understanding, because as people are trying to figure out what is going to occur in Stoughton, in downtown Stoughton, folks will want to know, well, is this going to have an impact on my pocketbook? Am I going to have to pay more taxes, to make Stoughton a more livable town?
Well, on that point, we're going to.
Can I add 10 seconds to that?
Well, in
Quickly.
terms of, yes.
It's just interesting. I think everyone on the SRA agrees with what Reggie just said. Interestingly, and as I said the same thing regarding the depot, okay? It should have been done in advance. However, it's interesting that during the time that the town has been unable to really work things out, the library was in there temporarily because they got forced out of where they were up on 138, and the housing authority offices are in there now because of the fire in the elderly center. So it has had some valuable use.
But it isn't clear communication
But it
either.
isn't.
And I think it's what's creating a lot of unrest within our own town government.
True.
We've got a divide, and that divide is coming from, why are we buying things that we don't have a clue what to do with? And we're faced with that, so I know you want to go to commercial.
Well, that's all right. We're going to come right back, because those who are watching this will be able to know that I have a vibrant three gentlemen here in order to talk about the issue about our town, but we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Roy Cohen. The crew would like to thank Maxie's Delicatessen, located at 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. You can reach them by calling 781-341-1662. The American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and treatments. You can volunteer by calling 1-800-ACS-6662 or online at www.cancer.org. Ilse Mark's Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market is located at 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton. For more information, call Christine Gallagher at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. To get involved with Meals on Wheels, call Jessica at 781-344-8882, extension 2. The Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business in Stoughton. To advertise, call 781-344-4833. Community Forum showtimes here in Stoughton. You can see it on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m., either on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 28. If you have any comments or suggestions, contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. Samaritans, 41 West Street, 4th floor in Boston, Massachusetts, 02111, or call them at 617-536-2460. The 24-hour helplines, 877-870-HOPE or 877-870-4673. Samaritans, 800-252-TEEN or 800-252-8336, or online www.samaritanshope.org. For you bingo players, I want to tell you about the Monday night bingo being held at the Ahava Torah Congregation, 1179 Central Street in Stoughton. The doors open at 4:30 p.m. The games start at 6:30 p.m. You come on down and win some money. They have 2 big prizes. One is $1,199 and the other one is up to $3,000. So come on down.
My guests today are members of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority. As you can see and read, if you want to contact them, you can contact them at an email, sra3@stoughton-mass.gov, or give a call to the chairman at 617-697-1142. And they're located at 10 Pearl Street, which is the town hall. And if you want to get in contact with them, please utilize either the email or the phone number. Well, we are back. Community Forum back, and if you have been tuning in, you know my guests today are the members of the Stoughton Redevelopment Authority, Chairman Forrest Lindwall, Treasurer Reggie Nunnally, and member Mark Zamanian. They serve for a term of 5 years, and we've been talking about a number of issues around the redevelopment of our Stoughton Center primarily, and getting their input on what has happened in the past and a direction as to what they may want to do going forward. But before the break, I wanted each of them to focus on either collectively or individually about 2 issues which I think will help with that revitalization, and that is the sewer line down Route 27 and the Stoughton Theater. So, gentlemen.
I'll start off as far as Route 27. The whole purpose of constructing a sewer line down there is the fact that it could support a fair amount of development or redevelopment, if you will, and therefore significantly expand the tax base. It is a corridor that could very well develop around that. Interestingly enough, if you go back, 6-7 years, Holly Boykin was on the Finance Committee. She was the chairperson of the FinCom, and at town meeting, she was the one who brought that up. But I guess this has been bantered around for, 20 years or more. And part of the problem is that it would be a lot less expensive if that sewer could tie into Brockton, the city of Brockton, rather than having a major pumping station and pumping the wastewater all the way back up into Stoughton. That is something that RK Plaza did on their own and got an intermunicipal agreement. And I, as one private citizen, have been hounding town engineering department, et cetera, that is the only way to go, to negotiate that out with the city of Brockton. It could save some significant money. It's something that should have been done 30 years ago when the federal government was paying 90 cents on the dollar to install sewers. It's unfortunate, but here we are today.
Mark?
So, whether you agree or disagree with the Route 27 project, sewer project, I think, we have to keep in mind that this was brought before town meeting, and I remember Michael Sullivan, Selectman Sullivan, saying, for many years we have depended on well-meaning community members to do this, and we haven't done a very good job with it. Now it's time to focus on hearing from the professionals and getting it done right. Nobody wants to, certainly myself, nobody wants to criticize anybody in the past, because anything that has been done, I think people did with the best intentions of Stoughton at heart. And I'm talking 30, 40 years now of politics or beyond. But, we made a decision at town meeting to trust the professionals. And now it's time to get through this study and see what it is that produces. Make a determination from there. I wasn't personally in favor of this. I was certainly close to the fence, but do understand the value of what this could do to that corridor. Keeping in mind, we have Route 138 that has the same problem heading south. And that's also a viable corridor, if not more important, certainly equally as important.
And I think part of the thing on the Route 27 is the Campanelli area.
Correct.
For
Yes.
sure. I mean,
Right.
and we're losing. I remember I took former town manager Mike Hartman for a ride down there when he came aboard as town manager, and I said, look, we have all of this potential here,
Yeah.
and speaking to getting developers here, if you have that, they will come with you going to 24 and going into Brockton and Avon.
Absolutely. But why aren't they ponying up any of the money? Where is the collaborative there? Why should we have to foot the
And
bill?
you're absolutely right, and those discussions were going on at a point in time. But again, someone has to coordinate those discussions and focus them, and that's what has
Correct.
been said by the three of you
Yep.
throughout this session. Reggie, did you have a comment?
And I'm being so new, to it. I'm not that familiar in terms of, the development there. But one of the things that I think is critical is that these are types of projects that really need a great deal of attention. So when Mark talks about the professionals, these are the folks that are being paid by the town of Stoughton to really give the advice to the various boards. And I do think that we now, going forward, because what has happened in the past has happened in the past. We've got to move forward, and we've got to pay attention to the people that are being paid from a professional level to give us the advice, and therefore we can make a more informed decision. I think it's great that, that Forrest and Mark can take time out of their day and go take a look at a project, and I commended both of them for that. For me, I don't have that type of time, and I really do rely on them as well as any other professional to come and give me that information so that I can make it a well-informed decision before I can make a productive vote on anything. So I think going forward, Mark's absolutely correct. We've got to really start paying attention to the professionals that are here. Let them earn their dollars so that Stoughton gets exactly what they're paying for.
Quick comments, because where you guys are so good, my time is evaporating very, very quickly. But I figured my role is to raise all the hot button issues, and you can blame it on me for sure.
That's what makes it fun.
Well, really blame it on Community Forum. It's Roy. Blame it on Roy, not me. It's Community Forum. I'm just the host. What about the theater? Let's talk about the theater.
We're not members of the Friends of State Theater.
Yeah, and I have to be honest.
It's a really difficult and challenging issue. I think,
It
for the
is.
town.
I agree. As a lover of the performing arts, would I love to see a theater here? Absolutely. Give me a private developer willing to put his $20 million into it and bring it to Stoughton, and I guarantee it will thrive. It will become a destination. But don't ask the taxpayers to foot that bill. That's insanity. You know, say what you, and we have a developer that currently owns the building, isn't doing anything with that corner that he owns, but he does own it. So that is another added wrinkle to this. He may perceive he has some power here because he holds the deed. Get me a private developer to do it, and I'm all on board. And furthermore, let's put our seniors next to it. Go up in height a little bit, put the seniors above the retail, make this their town again. They built this town, our seniors did. Not us, they did. So let's show them the respect they deserve.
What I'd like to do, because my time is running out, I want to put on the table for your consideration. As I mentioned earlier, co-host of Community Forum, Steve Kelly, had put, and he's been on the show here, so you can go back and look at the show. Yeah. And he had an idea which talked about development around, putting as I recall, in terms of there was like a park area and a parking lot and different things that were in there. It may be worth having him come to make a presentation to you if you haven't seen it. I have the tape and everything here as well. But, you know, I'm really excited. But before I do go and say goodbye to you three gentlemen, I want to thank the folks who helped put this organization, SMAC, together, and also particularly Community Forum. And I can't thank Frank Walsh enough. Frank has filled in for at least when I've been on hosting Community Forum, because Leo McGowan was our person before and he's recuperating. Hi Leo, hope you're doing fine. But I want to thank Frank Walsh. I want to thank the station head here, Michael Hammond. He does an excellent job. Our program director, Jeff Pickett. Dave Young, who, if you got to be careful what you say, because he will prepare the bloopers and you'll be in it. CJ Mullen, who works with Jeff Pickett. Gina Cole, who is one of the producers here. But most importantly, I left the best for last, my executive producer, Roy Cohen. He got me into this at least some 6 years ago, and we've been going strong in bringing programming to this station and to the community of Stoughton and the places where we are seen.
And Joe, if I could, I just want to mention Pam Carr, one of our other members, who very much wanted to be here today. I saw her just before I came over here. It's why I ran a little late. She has a local business, Mad Mama's Vintage. Sells all sorts of fun stuff. She wanted to be here but couldn't be, and she wanted somebody to say hello to the folks at home and let them know that if she could have arranged it. And Helder as well. Helder's our Portuguese ally here in town and a wonderful asset to the
Well,
SRA.
thank you to those members there. I wanted who were not able to join us today, but I know that you're doing your person's work serving on the SRA. I want to thank you, Forrest. You want to thank you, Reggie. I want to thank you, Mark, for being here today.
Thank you, Joseph.
I support all the work you do. I deal with development and zoning in the city of Boston primarily, and I know you have a task before you, and I certainly understand the politics here in Stoughton. So again, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today.
And when we need local legal consultation, you are the first person that we call.
That brings music to my ears. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome.